All right, so how to move to LA on a budget. In this video, we're going to talk about not only how much it costs to live in LA per month and what to expect, but how to actually achieve it and how I moved to LA with basically no money at 16, 17 years old and who wanted to be a creator, influencer, whatever, and literally almost went bankrupt in the process of doing it, but ended up surviving. So I have a lot of tips on how to move to LA, how to get the money, how to live on a budget, and in this video I'm going to go over it all. So let's just dive right in. To start off, let's talk about the structure of this video. The first half of this video, I'm going to talk about the costs. So in each category, like rent, utilities, transportation, food, I'm going to go over like how much it really costs, just so you know what to prepare for. And then the second half of the video, I'm going to talk about how to actually get there, like the steps to save up, my tips for moving, and how to find these cheap places. So yeah, let's just dive right into the first part. So the first category we're going to go over is rent. Now, if you're trying to move to LA alone and you want a one-bedroom apartment, you could be looking at anywhere from $2,000 a month, which is rare. Mostly it's starting at $3,000 to like $5,000, $10,000 a month. So if you're not a sugar baby and you don't have a sugar daddy, or you're not a nepotism kid, you're probably not going to have $10,000 a month just lying around to spend that. So my recommendation is to get a roommate. So I lived with roommates for a majority of my life. I had roommates of 5 girls, 1 girl, 2 girls, 3. Like I've experienced it all. The pricing range, if you have a roommate in LA, it depends what you get, of course. But for me, I've found places that are like 1.12K to around 1.67K. Like that range, you can get a pretty decent apartment and have it shared with like 2 or 3 other people. I will say the best way to go about finding these places with roommates is Facebook Marketplace. That's personally how I find all my roommates. I know some people do Craigslist, but I hate the UX of Craigslist, so I just don't go there. But I've had situations where roommates can be kind of scary because people don't get along with me. And I've had that happen to me before. It sucks, but honestly, you save so much money and you just have to really vet the people, really interview who you're living with. But I'm not going to go into my nightmare roommate situations, but for the most part, it's great to save money. And I found it very, very helpful and economically friendly. The next category that I want to go over is transportation. You will need a car in LA. I went to LA without a car. I would just use Uber. I was spending around $1,000 a month. So I recommend a car. My car personally, my monthly cost is like $350 plus insurance plus gas is around $500. So my transportation a month is $500 a month, which is better than $1,000. So highly recommend getting a car. I know it sucks for people. I have a lot of friends who live in the UK or out of the country, but you need a car unless you want to live in West Hollywood where you can walk everywhere, or maybe Venice, but you need a car, or a bike. But you need a car. The next thing is food. So this is my biggest tip with food, okay? I know a lot of people on these videos are like, don't eat out. You save so much money if you don't eat out. But I think you need to have an eating out budget if you live in LA. Because I'm assuming if you're a creator, right? And you're trying to move to LA, or you're an entrepreneur, right? You're trying to meet people. That's the whole point of LA, right? That's why people pay so much money for here. There's networking, there's so many events, it's by the beach. So you need to prepare money to eat out, just because food is one of the biggest ways to socialize with other creators. I personally go to 1 or 2 times a week a creator meetup, and sometimes it'll cost money. So I prepare a $500 eating out budget. Now, I never used to have this. Before, when I was 16, 17, I didn't have an eating out budget. That wasn't a thing. But now that I'm older, I am very conscious of my money, and I set aside a good coin just to eat out. And if you don't have this money in the beginning, it's okay. But I really think it's important to work up to. It is not necessary. You can't cook at home. But personally, for me, in my head, the purpose of LA is to meet people. So, plan to have a goal of having that money set aside. Once you put together rent, transportation, going out, and other things like the gym, I go to 24-hour fitness. It's $50 a month, health insurance and all that. I calculated that you average will spend around $3,000 a month to $3.5K. And that's a very comfortable lifestyle. Obviously, you can go lower. You can have 3 roommates in 1 room. You could obviously go higher, but let me just tell you, you do not want 3 roommates in 1 room, because I'm assuming if, again, you are a YouTuber, you need space to film. So I realistically think around that budget, you can get a really sick place and prepare to make that money. I will say personally for me, because I go out to a lot of events, I drive a lot, and I just have a lot of stuff that I buy. I have a meal delivery service. I have appliances that I'm buying, a furniture. My personally monthly cost right now is $1.5K a month, which is a lot more than when I first started. You don't need that amount in the beginning. But that's what I would say if you want to actually permanently live here. So you might be wondering, hey Jade, how do I get that $3,000 a month in order to live in LA? Now, you could save up a lot of money, like save up $40,000 and just like live off that and work a job. You could do that, right? And you can move out of your parents' house. But for me, I'm impatient and I want to move to LA. So here is my strategy. And I personally think you do not need the $3,000 a month to move to LA. Like, you don't need that upfront. And this is what you do. I call this the housing ladder. This is my secret strategy. I've never told anybody, but it really works. So it's 3 stages. It's a ladder. There's 3 different stairs. The first step is to move to LA for a week or 2 and just get an Airbnb. I know it sounds like kind of like what? Like I'm trying to like, this video is about moving to LA, but trust me, it's a lot cheaper to visit LA for a week or 2, do your business, film whatever collabs, go to a conference and whatever, and then go back to your parents' house. I did this of like living in LA for 2 weeks at maybe a friend's house or getting a really cheap Airbnb for a long time. When I was 16, 17, I did this a lot. A lot of people thought I actually moved to LA, but I didn't. I would basically go on Airbnb or Facebook Marketplace and find people who were renting out their place for a week or 2, or at the time, maybe it was like a month or 2. And this saved me a lot of money because like if I didn't have money, I could just go home, And, it just doesn't really work if you're older, you have kids and family. But for me, if I ever ran out of money, I would just go drive home or I would book a ticket. And this happened a lot. And I think not a lot of people know this about me. I couldn't afford to move in LA immediately. I had to like live here incrementally, but that's what you gotta do as a 16-year-old. You just gotta grind it and figure it out. I think you should go to LA, but you shouldn't move there if you don't have the money. For me, like I could find an Airbnb for like $50 a night. It's a shared housing, right? And then I could live there for like maybe a week. It would cost me around $350, and then a ticket would be like $200. Like it's definitely, $1,000 trip, but it's a lot better than spending $3,000, and you can control it. Like you control your expenses. So that's my first tip. And the first stage of the ladder is just don't move to LA if you can't afford it. You don't want to stress yourself out. Just stay here for a week or treat it like a vacation. Then you can move on to stage 2. So stage 2 is what I call getting a midterm lease. So basically, there's a lot of housing in Los Angeles and California that basically is like a short-term lease. It's normally people that are in college that maybe leave for 3 to 6 months because of break or they're going out of the country. Like you would be surprised how many people go abroad because of maybe school, they're studying abroad and they just have an apartment that is laying around. And when I was living in San Luis Obispo, which is not LA, but it's a city in California. 2 years ago, I lived there and I was staying at a sublease. And basically, it's like you have your own room for 3 months or 6 months, but there's no commitment. Like you're not signed to like a landlord. Like you're just basically renting from a friend and you're paying them for your monthly rent. And what's great about this is you don't need to buy furniture. It's usually furnished. And like I said, you can find these people on Facebook Marketplace. You can search Los Angeles sublease. And again, you're gonna pay like the 1.1K to 1.7K a month, but say you get it for like 2 months or 3 months, that's still not a huge commitment than like a 1-year lease. And there's no furnishing, like that's the key, there's no furnishing. I would say you only wanna do this once you have some money, but like, say you save up $10,000, I think you can use that 10 grand to live in LA for 3 months. And of course, you might be wondering like, Jade, like you don't wanna spend all your money in LA, but like, trust me guys, like, I think LA is one of the most expensive cities, obviously, but there's so many benefits to this. Like, I personally think I've gotten a lot of connections here. Literally, I met so many of the creators that I work with. I've met like managers at big corporations that now hire my agency for work. Like that's how I literally got my Warner Brothers contract for my XA media company. So it's a risk, but there is a reward, and there's ways to do it without actually living there. So I would consider that stage 2. And stage 3 is really for someone who's ready to commit and signs a 1-year lease. And that's when you pay basically the 3 to 4K a month indefinitely for a year. But as you can see, this gradual like stepping stone doesn't have to happen all in one. Like I personally, let me give you a timeline. 16 to 17, I was doing like the cockamamie scheme, like getting a Airbnb or sleeping on a couch for a week and going back to Portland, my parents' house. And I do that a lot. 18 to 19 is when I did the, I got a 3 to 6 month stay and I lived there. No furniture, just buying a place off a friend. And then 19, 20, I'm 20 now, is when I'm like now committing to like longer term leases. I just signed a new lease to a new apartment actually down the street, which you guys will see very soon. So as you can see, this is a whole like timeline of 40 years of me progressing up this food chain. And You guys should try this housing ladder if you haven't already, especially if you're young. Take advantage of it. Like, this doesn't work if you have a family, but this does work if you're young. And I'm so happy I didn't sign a fucking 1-year lease when I was 16 because one, couldn't afford it. 2, I got to live in a lot of different places. And the best thing too is if you travel, especially if you go to like digital nomad, you go to Bali for a month or something, I don't know, you don't pay rent all the months you travel. Like I would, maybe get an apartment for 2 months and then leave the country for 1 month to travel and come back. And I would not have any overlap with like paying rent. So that's one of the beauties of this housing ladder. And, obviously take your own advice, but that's personally what worked best for me. And I definitely think it's so realistic for any YouTuber. Like, I think when people try to move out in 1 year, it's too ambitious. But over 4 years, you're definitely able to achieve your goal. And that's why I say use the housing ladder. So you can still achieve your goals, but like moderate it. All right, so this last part of the video, which I hope it's helpful. If you guys find this video very helpful, just give this video a like because I'm a YouTuber and likes help this video. So the last part of this video I want to go over is where to live in LA. There's a lot of locations and I've lived in every single part of LA. I've lived in downtown. I lived in Culver City. I lived in North Glendale for a little bit. I lived in Hollywood. I lived in the beach. So let me just say, stay away from downtown. I just don't like downtown. I know some people really do. Like, you can live in the USC area, which is where I did, and get away with that. But I just don't like downtown. There's nothing that I like to do there. I don't feel safe, especially if you're female. Like, I just don't feel safe downtown. And it's dirty. And I just don't like downtown. So personally for me, if you want to be in that area, live in Glendale, Studio City. That's a really nice area. I just don't like it because I surf, and Glendale, which is kind of like northern LA, is so far from the beach. It's like an hour and a half. So that was out for me, but I did live there for a bit. It was really nice. And, I would just stay away from Hollywood. Like, just try, okay, honestly, if you've heard of the place, don't live there. Like, if you heard of Hollywood in downtown LA, because it's popular, it's probably not a good place to live because there's just so many people and there's a lot of homeless, but just try to stay away from those areas unless you get a really good deal. But if you do get a good deal, like, just be careful. Like, I remember I found this apartment in downtown LA. It was like super cheap. It was like $700 a month. And I was literally going to move in because it was really cute. It was like a loft. And literally, I checked the address that I was going to like tour, and it was on Skid Row. If you guys don't know what Skid Row is, like, it's just not a safe neighborhood. It's like the most like highest crime neighborhood in LA. So I would just be very careful. Let me tell you some areas that I do like. I really love Marina del Rey, Culver City, and Venice. Obviously, I'm biased. It's by the beach. And it is expensive, but you'd be surprised. You could find places in Venice for a pretty good deal. And Culver City has really good deals. Like, I have a lot of friends that live there because it's like really close to the beach, but not beach prices. And if you have money, you should live in Marina del Rey because that's my favorite place. If you guys are wondering where I live right now, I live in Redondo Beach / Manhattan Beach. Like, I live really like on the northern part. And I really like it. My new place that I'm going to move into is also in Manhattan Beach / Redondo Beach. And I really like it. I really do. I think the South Bay Area is amazing. So anyways, there you go. That's my tidbit. Just live by the beach because I think it's like, why would you move to LA if you can't see the beach? But anyways, those are my top picks. I hope this was helpful and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys want to learn more on how to live in LA with a budget as an influencer, I actually have an extended version of this video on my podcast. My podcast is called I Am Not an Expert, and I'll be actually answering some of your guys' questions from Instagram about, is LA worth it? Exactly how much I pay for certain utilities. All these questions will be answered on my podcast, and you guys can listen to it right now. There's a link in the description box. It's called I Am Not an Expert. You guys should check it out and subscribe if you like it. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video. And shout out to the comment winner. If you want to be the next comment winner, just comment below. And I love you guys. Okay.